Good evening. We're going to continue on with Module 2. Tonight we're doing Lesson 3. Investigate and use a formula for the area of a rectangle. So this is a rectangle, and we're going to be using a very special formula called area equals length times width. So here is the length, and then this is the width. This right here is a multiplication sign, so don't get fooled by that. It is another way of writing a multiplication symbol. If you don't feel comfortable with the dot, you just put an X, but it's length times width to find the area. Well, here is grid paper with a rectangle on top of it. If you look at it very closely, what do you notice? Well, I notice that how am I supposed to figure out the area when there's no numbers or anywhere around this shape? But that is what's helpful when it comes to the grid paper, because area is what's inside of a shape. Perimeter is how we measure around the shape. That's the difference between area and perimeter. Area is length times width, whereas perimeter is length plus width plus length plus width. But with area, we would measure inside of a rectangle. And it's measured in squared units because there's squares inside. If you want to put a rug in your house or tiles on your floor, you would have to find the area. If you were going to be putting a fence around your property, you would be using the perimeter. So this has missing numbers, so I'm not sure how I would figure out to find the area. Well, how you would find the area is just count inside the boxes. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's say this is centimeters. You would have 6 centimeters squared units. So another way of doing this would be, here is your width is 2 centimeters, and your length is 3 centimeters, because you have a block here, 1, 2, 3, and then you have one over here on the side, width 1, 2. So we would know that length times width is equal to, that's our area, and we would plug this in. We would say the length is 3 and times the width is 2, so it would be 6 centimeters squared. Well, we were able to figure that out before without labeling the sides, because we would just counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There were 6 squared units inside that rectangle. Here's another one, a blue rectangle written upon grid paper. If we look inside, we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 centimeters squared that we counted inside of the rectangle to find the area. Or we could just do area is equal to length times width and plug it in. So A, the length is 6 centimeters times the width, which is 3 centimeters. So we do A is equal to 18 centimeters squared. And our next problem here, we have a rectangle and it's on top of a grid, and we have 4 units on the top and we have 7 units on the side there. So again, we can just, with this particular one, we can just count up the squares inside of that rectangle, and that's finding the area, what the squares inside. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. We have 28 square units within this rectangle. Now, not every time you're going to have grid paper and just count. You're going to need to know your facts. So here we would do area is equal to length times width. And just plug it in. A is equal to the length, which is 4 units, and the width is 7. So we would do A is equal to 28 squared units. And our next one, what is the area of this rectangle? All right, well, we could just simply count the squares inside, because it is on grid paper, to find the area, because that's inside the rectangle. Or we could just use the formula, A is equal to length times width. So since we have it on grid paper, let's just count inside the rectangle to find the area. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We have 15 units. So the area is 15 units, squared units inside of this rectangle. Now, we need to get into the habit of finding the area using the formula. A is equal to length times width. So we have area is equal to, find the length, which is 3 units, and the width is 5. A is equal to 3 times 5, which is 15, and then we need to label square units. Okay, now if you notice, this particular problem, we're missing the grid paper. So now we can't count inside that rectangle and find the area like we did in the previous problems. Now we actually have to use the formula. But before we do that, I would like you to understand that when we find the area and we use multiplication, multiplication uses the numbers that we multiply together are called factors. And when we get an answer in a multiplication problem, it is called the product. So we want to get into the habit of saying those words when we are figuring out the area. So if we look at what are the factors in this problem, well, the factors are 6 and 8. So when we multiply numbers together, we are multiplying the factors of 6 and 8. And then when we multiply them together is when we would find the product. Well, let's figure out the area for this rectangle. So A is equal to length times the width. Okay? And now we need to plug in the factors. The A is going to be our product. So let's plug it in. We have our length of 6 units, and we have our width as 8 units. So here are our factors. 6 times 8 are our factors. Now we need to find the area, which is going to be our product. So A is equal to 48 square units. And why am I calling them units right now? Well, because I don't have a unit of measure yet. I don't know what that is, so I'm just going to call it units. So the product to this problem is 48. That's the product from the factors 6 times 8. Okay, as you see here, A equals length times width. This is considered an equation because it's a way of representing how we find the area of any rectangle. The equation tells us that we can always find the area of a rectangle by multiplying the length and the width. So here you have a rectangle that has a length of 6 meters and a width of 2 meters. Now we actually have a unit of measure, which is in meters. Whereas before we didn't, we just called it units. So here are our factors, 6 meters and 2 meters. Now it doesn't really matter where you plug in that 6 and that 2, because when it comes to multiplication, you can put them in any letter and they're still going to get the same product. So here we have our equation, A is equal to length times width. We also called it a formula. So now what we have to do is you have to know that A stands for area and L stands for length and the W stands for width. And then what now you have to do is, like we did before, is take our factors and plug them in to where they belong. So we're going to do A is equal to 6 meters times 2 meters, and we're going to get 12 meters squared. So this is an equation. We can call it an equation, a formula, and we take our factors and we plug it in to our equation, and we're going to get a product of A is equal to 12 meters squared. Here's our next one. The next one has a very long type of rectangle. It has a factor on one side, 2 centimeters, and on the top, it's 30 centimeters. Now, I wrote 2 equations out. A is equal to 2 times 30, and A is equal to 30 times 2. 2 times 30 and 30 times 2 are both equal to the product of 60. They are both equal. The order does not matter because we can draw a 30 centimeter by 2 centimeter rectangle and the area will still be the same number of square centimeters as the 2 centimeters by 30 centimeters rectangle. The formula has 2 factors and we can multiply those in any order and get the same product because of the commutative property of multiplication. This property allows us to take our factors and put them in any order, and they're still going to equal the same product. What type of shape is this? Well, hopefully you know that it is a square. When using the area formula for a rectangle, we can write the side lengths in either order, and the area is still the same. When you see this is a square. And what do we know about a square? Well, we know that a square, all the sides have the same length and all the angles are right angles. All these are considered right angles. Right angles are 90 degrees. They look like L's. This would be a right angle. And that's always 90 degrees. So in a square, all the sides are equal. So the top is 8, the sides are 8, and the bottom is 8. They're all equal. Do you think we could use the area formula for a rectangle to find the area of a square? Of course we can. A square is also a rectangle, so the formula will work. Now, how do you know which side is the length and which side is the width? It really doesn't matter because all sides are the same length. So it doesn't matter which is the length and which one is the width. The multiplication equation would be the same no matter what order you put the factors in. So if we used our formula, A is equal to length times width, we're going to put our factors in to find the product. And when we're putting the factors in, we're creating our equation. So we've got 8 times 8, and we know our multiplication. We're going to find a product of A is equal to 64 centimeters squared. In our next example, if you look at this very carefully, you're going to see something that really sticks out to you as strange. And I don't blame you. It is kind of strange, because if you look over here, there is a P meters. And I know we've spoken this before, but any time in math that you see a letter in math, it is called a variable. A variable is unknown, and we need to find it. So we need to solve for this P. Well, we do know that the area is equal to 250 square meters. We do know that the width over here is 5 meters, but we just don't know the length. So what we need to do is take out our formula, is A is equal to length times width. And now we need to take our product and our factor and plug it in. Our product is 250 square meters, and we know that the width is 5 meters, but we don't know what the length is. So I'm going to put in P, because that is our unknown side for the length, timesing it by the width, which is 5. So we have our product of 250, and we have a factor of 5, but we're missing this factor. So we need to solve for P. So this is basically like a division problem that we would have to divide 5 into 250. 250 divided by 5. So we need to say 5 times what is going to give us 250? Well, the unknown side is going to be 50 meters. So P is equal to 50 meters. That's our missing side, because 50 times 5 is 250. We could say 5 times 5 is 25, and then we have that 0, and there's our 0 right there. So it's 50. Now, if we want to make sure, we should always be checking to see if it works. So let's plug in 50 where the P is. So we would do 50 times 5 is equal to 5 times 5 is 25, and our 0. So 250. So we did this problem correct. Check. And our last example tonight. Ivan plants a rectangular garden. The garden has a width of 5 feet. The length of the garden is 6 times as long as the width. What is the area of Ivan's garden? Well, I see a word that we've done before. I see this comparison here, times, 6 times. So 6 times as long as the width. Now, when I was your age, I would have just jumped right in and said, the area is 6 times 5. That is not correct. We need to first find the length of the garden, which is 6 times as long as the width. So we would need to take our 5, because that's our width, and multiply it with the 6, because it's 6 times as long as the width. And we would get 30. So now we would need to take, actually we have to say 30 feet, because we need our unit of measure, because right there is our unit of measure is 5 feet. So now we can make a rectangle. All right, and one side is going to be 5 feet. And now we found the 6 times as long as the width, which is 30 feet. We found our length. And now we can solve it. We know that we have our formula, which is area equals length times width. And now we need to find the product of our two factors, which our two factors are 5 and 30. So let's put our A, and we're going to set up our equation. Our length is 30, and our width is 5. Now remember, we don't have to worry about which is the length and which is the width, because either way, our product is going to be the same. So A is equal to 3 times 5, we know is 15. We add on our 0. So 150 feet squared is our area. You got this. The next two problems, give it your best shot. So here's a rectangle. Find the product, find the area of our two factors, 30 meters and 3 meters. Solve the equation. All right, we got a missing side alert. Got to create an equation and solve for the missing side. We know the area is 50 centimeters squared. Find and solve for P. Who's awesome? You're awesome. Great job tonight, guys. We'll practice this tomorrow. Have a wonderful night.